Welcome to the Healthy and Redeemed podcast, hosted by Healy Eichert. Healy is a licensed counselor with a passion for helping Christians live healthier lives, emotionally and spiritually. Each episode combines the truth of God's Word with practical advice to help you in your everyday life. Whether you want to grow emotionally, strengthen your faith, or handle life challenges with more peace, this podcast is for you. We're so glad you've joined us. Let's get started.
To God be the glory. Hi, friends. Welcome back to Healthy and Redeemed. In our last episode, we talked about emotional maturity, and we looked at 11 signs to indicate emotional healthiness. And I gave you some more homework, and I hope that you actually were able to practice of one of those areas, and I hope that you had some success in doing that. Good self-awareness is to be aware of the areas that we need to grow in and then actually make that change in our life. So you've probably heard the saying, knowledge is power. And I was at a conference recently, and one of the workshop instructors said, applied knowledge is power. And I thought, gosh, that resonates with me so much more because this is what I think. And this is why I had created a workbook instead of just a book, because it doesn't matter what we know, it matters what we put into action. And so only doing something actually makes changes in our life. And that's where the real power comes from, is actually applying what we know. So this week I wanted to talk about setting up a good foundation for our mental and emotional health. And I believe there are 3 parts to a really good foundation. I couldn't find a real analogy, so I'm going to use a tripod analogy. So we use a tripod to hold our camera. So our camera is going to be our mental and emotional health, and the tripod is going to be the foundation. And so, to take good pictures or to take at least steady, clear pictures, we need this tripod to hold our camera steady. And so we have these 3 legs in our tripod. So in order to have our emotional health steady, we've got to have these 3 legs, these 3 parts of the tripod. So here is what I believe are good, healthy parts to have a foundation of good mental health. It is physical activity or exercise, nutrition, and sleep. So we want to practice or have those things because we know already that our physical affects our emotional and mental and vice versa. So we want to make sure that we have these 3 things in place. And these are, I always ask these 3 questions in session of, okay, what are you doing for exercise or physical activity? How are you eating? And how's your sleep? And so I can pretty much assess and what's going on with them and what we need to work on from there. So we all know the benefits of exercise. And that doesn't necessarily mean going to the gym, although it can do that. It can mean walking, hiking, yard work, golfing, or stretching, walking around the block. It can also mean activities like biking, running, kayaking. I love to kayak. It's a great workout. Or, of course, you can go to the gym for more organized workouts. Some people really like that. Some people, gym is just not their thing. Exercise can be a wonderful coping skill, and it also can be a great way to improve your mood. So we really want to have that leg of the tripod firm and stable there. And we need all 3 legs to actually have our camera stand up on something. So another important leg of the tripod is nutrition or eating habits. So a lot of food has been found very helpful for our brain and obviously our body, but it also helps our emotional health. I don't know, have you ever eaten at a fast food restaurant? Like one of my favorite places, if I'm craving a burger, is Steak and Shake. I love their little skinny fries, and I love the sloppiness of the Frisco melts, my favorite I always get. Now, I eat that, I love it, but it never fails. Like 30 minutes later, I'm like, ugh. So I have to, normally use some essential oils for my stomach so I don't feel bloated and all that. But just imagine if I did that every day, like you could see how that would really begin not only to affect my body, but especially affect my emotional state as well. Because when you don't feel good, of course, your mood is not going to be, joyful and excited and all that. You're going to be down, like, oh, I need to take a nap. So, it's really important that we have good nutrition. Things like bad fats or excessive salt or sugar, that has actually been found to be associated with ADHD, depression, heart disease, cancer, dementia, and a ton of other things. So, things like drinking lots of water, and these things we know, we've heard all of our lives, drinking lots of water, increasing your omega-3 fatty acid intake, eating more proteins, eating healthy carbohydrates, increasing our fiber intake, and eating antioxidant rich foods are wonderful ways to integrate into our eating habits so that we can feel better. So, eating 3 times a day and avoiding lots of those excessive fast foods will also be helpful as you're working on your nutrition. So, the third leg of the tripod is getting a good night's sleep. And so the 3 legs again are exercise, nutrition, and sleep. But I want to talk a little bit about sleep today, a little bit more in depth. Each area is fascinating in its own way, and you could really dig in deep to each of those. But sleep is very interesting to me and has so many benefits that I think we disregard sometimes. Sleep is one of those things that a lot of people struggle with also, especially people that have anxiety. If you have excessive fear or worry or are just a deep thinker, sleep is one of the things that people struggle with because it's a place that our thoughts can kind of go a little crazy. Our thoughts can go in all sorts of different directions. And if you've ever been laying awake at night, you know our thoughts can run a million rabbit trails, and there are no end to the rabbit trails. So, are you struggling with sleep or racing thoughts or just a million rabbit trails when you lay down at night? I hope that through this episode that you're going to be able to learn something and make some changes to your sleep habits so that you can improve your mental health. So, sleep can repair muscles, it can help you grow bones, it can manage hormones and sort your memories. And don't you find it so interesting that God created this activity of sleep? It's something that we have to do to remain functional. There are no options when it comes to sleep. We have to do that to be recharged and to start the next day. But he could have chose anything to do that. It's interesting that he chose sleep. And here's what is even more interesting. We find in the book of Genesis, as part of the creation, if you remember, he put Adam into a deep sleep to create Eve. Now, I'm going to guess that this deep sleep was definitely around stage 3 or 4. And we're going to talk about the stages. But I find it interesting. There are also other times in the Bible that God put people into a deep sleep to maybe share a vision or to do something for them or to help them rest, get a really good rest. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about sleep cycles and sleep stages, okay? So there are 4 sleep stages, and when you have all 4 sleep stages, that's considered a cycle, a sleep cycle. The sleep cycle takes about 90 to 120 minutes or 2 hours to complete itself. And you go through about 4 to 6 a night cycle. So you have to, I mean, it will depend on how much you sleep, of how many cycles that you go through. But that's, if you're getting the good night's sleep that you're supposed to be getting, which is about, for adults, 7 to 9 hours. If you're doing that, you're going through about 4 to 6 sleep cycles. So, sleep stages. So we've got 3 stages in non-REM sleep and 1 stage in the REM sleep. So REM stands for rapid eye movement. So that's when if you have your eyes closed and you can see your eyes go back and forth twitching, like if you watch someone sleeping, you can probably see that. This is actually how EMDR got started. And so that's a eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, that type of therapy that works with people that have experienced trauma. So that's for a whole nother episode, but that's kind of where they got this idea of that it could be helpful, and you'll hear why as we go on. So in the non-REM sleep, you've got those 3 stages. One is the lightest sleep, and that is about 1 to 5 minutes. That's lasts a very short time. The second stage lasts about 25 minutes. It's a light sleep also, but it's not as light as the first sleep. And then the third stage is a deep sleep. This lasts about 30 to 60 minutes. You can have dreams here, night terrors, sleepwalking, those sort of things happen in this stage, and it's actually the stage that is hardest to wake up from. You might, if you've ever woke up and been totally disoriented, like you didn't know where you were, like what was going on, this is probably the stage you were in. The REM stage is the next stage, and this is a dream sleep also, but it is the most vivid dream sleep, and it lasts 10 minutes. So we don't actually need a whole lot of REM sleep, but we do need it. Most of the really important parts that the brain does is in stage 3. So when you're done with stage 4, then you'll cycle back around to stage 1, and you'll kind of start the cycle all over again. Now, as you go through, the 4th stage of the REM sleep will actually get longer than 10 minutes. Each time you cycle back around, that'll actually get longer.
Are you struggling with anxiety or worry? God has given you the power to change those emotions. In the workbook Changing Your Feelings, licensed counselor Healy Eichert merges biblical principles with practical psychology and tools to help Christians overcome anxiety, worry, and fear. Whether you're seeking personal growth or you're a therapist working with Christian clients, this resource can guide you toward emotional healing. Visit any online bookstore to get your copy and start changing your feelings and your life today.
I think I read somewhere that it normally takes an average person about 25 minutes to fall asleep. Now, that's not true of everybody. Some people just lay right down, fall asleep, but other people kind of struggle. So that's probably where they got that 25 minutes. Now, as I mentioned, for adults, you need about 7 to 9 hours for a really good night's sleep. Now, I'm guessing in our society, most people don't get that, but I would like to see the correlation in that if people that aren't getting good night's sleep are also struggling with mental issues of just not feeling like their emotions are good, their moods are very upbeat. I would be interested in seeing that, because I think that the less sleep that we get, we're definitely going to have more mental struggles in that area. So children need a lot more sleep, obviously, than adults. So it's really important to look up the age of your child and kind of see how much that they need and implement that in their sleep routine. So some of the benefits of sleep to our body, and again, it's really neat the way that God has done this, that when we're getting sleep and resting and getting restored, our brain is doing lots of stuff that's really, really important to us. So some of the benefits and some of the things that's going on at night. Sleep is actually, this is one of the times that the brain is cleansing itself of toxins. So toxins are built up during the day, and and at night it cleanses itself from that. And these toxins have been found to be related to Alzheimer's. Again, wouldn't that be an interesting study to see if people that has struggled with Alzheimer's actually how much sleep or if they were getting good sleep in their life and if they were going through all the cycles. Because sometimes we can think we're sleeping good or we can think we're sleeping bad and we may not really know. I think I use my Fitbit because I really wanted to see, am I sleeping as bad as I think? And sometimes I am, but sometimes I'm not. I'm actually getting all the stages of sleep that I get. But because I wake up several times a night, I think, oh my gosh, I didn't sleep all night. When actually, maybe I'm just waking up as the cycle changes and then going back to sleep. So, another thing that the brain does, it's processing information from the day and actually consolidating memories. So, because the brain is doing this, it helps us remember things and and if we're getting a good sleep, it's helping us remember things better. And it moves our short term memories into the long term memory storage. So if you think, oh gosh, I can't remember anything, well, sleep might be something you check because that's something that the brain does at night. Another benefit of sleep is that it's improving our immunity. We can keep illnesses more at bay as our immune system rises up because we've gotten a good night's sleep. It supports healthy brain function as nerve cells communicate and reorganize. Sleep also repairs cells and releases molecules like hormones and proteins that we need. It regulates sex hormones of testosterone and estrogen. It de-escalates anxiety symptoms. And here is the most fascinating and important part I want you to hear. It actually helps you process trauma. So sleeping well helps you process trauma. And I'm going to tell you something that if you have experienced a traumatic event, what's going to help in your recovery the most is at least 2 good nights sleep after that traumatic event. So if there's any way, and I know this is hard for people because they feel like, oh my gosh, I can't settle my mind down. If you can learn how to settle your mind down, this is going to be helpful for you in the long run, because one thing that sleep experts have found is that sleep medication, although it helps you go to sleep, you're not processing through those sleep cycles like you need to. So you're not experiencing any of the benefits of what the brain and body is doing while you sleep. So if at all possible, to avoid those sleep medications, especially the first few nights after a trauma. And I would say, as an ongoing practice, that don't rely on sleep medication to help you sleep. You need to learn some other more natural ways to go to sleep, because again, that sleep medication is impairing your ability for the brain to do its work. So for children, benefits of sleep, a good night's sleep, include improving the development of cognition, of mood, of language, and of physical growth. So they need to get that sleep so that they'll be healthy young children and grow up to be healthy adults. So possible side effects of lack of sleep is depression, high blood pressure, migraines, and sometimes even seizures. So you may have heard all this and went, oh my goodness, I am not sleeping good enough. And or maybe you've identified, like, maybe that's why I'm experiencing this, is because my sleep hasn't been good. So what can you do? It is important that we have good sleep hygiene, and that basically means good sleep habits. So I want to go through a few of those things to what can really help you get a good night's sleep. So the first thing we want to make sure that we're not doing is consuming alcohol before bed, taking sleep medication, or drinking caffeine or even nicotine or anything that it like we take it to help us fall asleep. That may help you fall asleep, but again, it's not helping your brain do the things you need to do. Those things actually inhibit your brain from doing the things that they need to do. So it's so important to make sure that you are trying to go to bed as naturally as possible. And a lot of people will drink alcohol to go to bed, and I'm telling you, that reduces your sleep quality a lot. So if you can avoid that, that would be helpful to you and your mental health. So, one of the most important things, and we do this for our kids all the time, if you have a child, you have a routine for your children at bedtime, right? So maybe it's take a bath, get on your pajamas, brush your teeth, comb your hair, pick out a book, get into bed, have a story, have a prayer, and then get all the stuffed animals around you, get tucked in, and off goes the light. So that's the routine for children, typically. I don't know. That was the routine at my house. So for adults, we basically have to do the same thing. We have to create a regular routine for bed because this helps us and our body know that it's time for bed. We need to start winding down. So in your children's body and brain, normally when they are taking a shower, brushing their teeth, that is signaling to their body, okay, we're going to start shutting down now and getting tired and release the melatonin so that they're going to be able to fall asleep. So we want to make sure that we have a regular routine before we go to bed. Some good things to do before bed is to avoid lots of lights, to avoid TV and other screens like phones. I know that one's hard, but it's important. If you're struggling with sleep, put away the phone. Also, to make sure that you are getting enough sleep. So, going to bed at the same time every night, but making sure you actually are. I mean, it's not going to help you if you're going to bed every night at 1 a.m., but you have to be up at 6. Like, that's not going to give you a good night's sleep, right? So you're going to have to go to bed. If you have to be up at 6, you probably should start heading to bed at 9:30 because you need to have some time to fall asleep, and then you need to have enough sleep actually in the bed. So, other things you can do is avoid non-sleeping time in bed. You can avoid naps during the day. Make sure that your room is really conducive to sleep, so adjusting the room temperature, any light and noise. And I know people hate when I say it's really not good to have the TV on, to sleep to the TV or music or anything. Your brain still has to process that. So you're not giving your brain a rest to do the things that it needs to do. So if you really need to go to sleep to the TV or something or some sound, just put it on a timer where it goes off in 30 minutes or something. So by the time you hit that deep sleep, your brain is doing what it needs to do. So if you're having a lot of thoughts when you're laying down into bed, I would encourage you to try some deep breathing and practice some deep breathing at night. That activity is actually meant to slow your heart rate down and to get you really relaxed and help you focus on your breathing instead of your thoughts and all the 10,000 things that you want to think about. Also, you can try some muscle relaxation or some meditation on scripture, something like that. We'll talk about those things in future episodes. But for now, if you want to learn how to deep breathe properly, I do have a resource on my website. It is writtenbyhealy.com/free resources. I don't know. You just go to writtenbyhealy.com and there will be a tab that says free resources. You put in your email and a password. I don't know that. I don't have access to that, but you can then access. I've got a ton of free resources there, and you can have access to that. So I hope that if you have not been sleeping well, or you've been struggling with stabilizing your mood during the day, that you will try some of these changes to work on your sleep and to be able to get a good night's sleep. The Lord has created our brain and our body to need sleep. We need sleep. God's created our body to do that, and we want to do that too. I mean, what a great excuse to rest, right? Our brain needs to replenish, our body needs to replenish. So, this week, if you're having trouble sleeping, I would encourage you to practice one of the relaxation techniques, or kind of look and see the things that we've talked about and see what you haven't been doing or you have been doing that's been inhibiting your sleep, and make a change. Do one small thing this week to try to improve your sleep. I'm excited that we can begin living like Jesus did, be a healthy reflection of Him, and living as a healthy and redeemed people. Hey, thank you so much for joining me, and Lord willing, I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening. The information provided is to be used as a resource. If you have a serious mental issue, we would encourage you to contact a therapist in your state.